Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we've got our 2024 over-under episode. So, excited. We got 5 categories on offense, 6 on defense. And, this is first time it's just been me and you on an episode for a while. We're coming off of a weekend that had the most hated Talking Giants episode in Talking Giants, like by far the most hated episode in Talking Giants history. And Trump got shot this weekend, so very, very eventful weekend.
And there was a lot of people that wanted to shoot snacks. How you doing? How you doing, Bobby Skinner? How you doing, Patreon chat? Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. Don't forget about that. Basically, every episode's going to be on Patreon, and you get to hear it before everybody else does. If you want to join that chat, we live stream it. Good, man. Every episode, we have a theme. We don't need to search for themes anymore. We don't need to get creative. Football's coming back. Training camp is next week, right?
Yeah, 1 week away from the Camp Battles training camp episode. We will be at every single training camp practice covering them. I'm excited, man. We've been getting some Football Today content out for camp where it's like, man, we're 1 week away from my favorite content time of the year, which is training camp. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I want to plug JM Football and Football Today. So Bobby and I, you know how we do PPPs on this channel, where every single weekday we talk about a Giants player that is significant, a significant player on the roster. Well, we're doing that on JM Football, where every single NFL team, we will have an episode starting on the 22nd of July. So next Monday through Friday, all the way up until the start of the season, we'll be talking about each individual NFL team. Episodes about 25 to 35 minutes. If you like hearing us on Talking Giants, you're going to like what we have to say on JM Football, those TPPs, team, profile, and previews. There you go.
And PPPs, so next week. So
yes,
basically, if you like us, you're going to have like 8 hours of content per day.
Almost every day. Live streams. We're live streaming Hard Knocks, too. If you're wondering why we're not talking about Hard Knocks in these episodes, we're talking about Hard Knocks on separate live streams that just live on YouTube. So, man, we're bringing it, man. If you like us, and we're trying to prove it, we're trying to bring it, and hopefully you enjoy it.
And if you don't like us, we're
Fuck
still
off.
going to be in your ears. And also, I forgot we have Nate Tice, a little blurb from our last Football Today episode at the end that we're going to talk about. And we're going to play the clip on here. So, but let's get into the Giants over-unders, Justin. And as always, we're going to start with the offense. And as always, we're going to start with Daniel Jones. Coming off of, his worst stretch of football, coming off of a torn ACL, a neck injury. We're doing the over-under for Daniel Jones this year at 215 passing yards per game. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but he's only done this twice in 5 seasons, and 2022 was not one of them either. 19 QBs have done this the last 2 years. And even though this is this is the lowest I've felt about Daniel Jones, I am going over. Because I think this offense and Brian Daboll is going to demand this from him, right? Like, even if it doesn't look good, I think they are going to demand this amount of yardage per game. And I think there'll be some 300-yard games in there. It's just about not having the stinker 98 or 105-yard games. Because, like you have Malik Nabers, right? And so now you have this true wide receiver one. You have 3 yak threats in Malik Nabers, Slayton, and Wandale Robinson. Then you have Jalen Hyatt, this big explosive play. And another factor in this is you don't have Saquon Barkley, who they're going to feel obligated to feed. So I'm going over on this because I feel like, again, this offense is going to demand him to throw for more than 215 yards per game. Like, they're going to force whoever is a quarterback to throw more than that.
I'm going under, man. Last year was 225, and we both confidently said over. Like, oh, man, this is just going to happen. And I don't think the departure of Saquon Barkley is going to change, even from a volume standpoint. They are going to throw the ball more, but I don't think it's going to change the passing offense that much, right? Jones is you said it, Jones has only gone over this twice in his career. It was 2019 and 2021. Jake Browning was like that 19th quarterback to do it, 215 last year. And in 2022, Kyler Murray did it, where he was around that 215 215 yards per game. At this point, Bobby, I'm just not confident in Daniel Jones's ability to lead an above average passing offense. He's been teetering on this 6.6 to 6.8 yards per attempt for his entire career, and even 2022 where the completion percentage was way higher. He's gotten marginally better at manipulating the pocket, and he's always taken way too many sacks, which still that's a major concern this year. Not that doesn't necessarily impact yards per game. If he had more improvisation to his game, then I would be all for it. Hyatt, Nabers, but it's no for me. There's just more evidence. Here's what it comes down to. There's just more evidence and a sample size that Jones is going to be under this number than over. That's what it comes down to.
My argument is not even, it's just about like the coaching staff and not the 10 other guys because the offensive line, but basically the receiving group and the running back group, that whoever they roll out there, they're going to demand to do more than, like they're not going to play the same type of offense that they did in 2020. And they can't. They don't have Saquon Barkley anymore.
But I think they have demanded it in the past. That's the issue.
When?
We've seen it the last 2 years. Now the personnel's different, where Malik Nabers is that one, forget the hype that we had around Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney. Malik Nabers is just better. Forget the hype that we had around Darren Waller. Malik Nabers as this wide receiver, not just a weapon, not just the number one target. Malik Nabers is that number one wide receiver. But we've seen how over the first month of each 2022 and 2023 season, we have seen an offense and a Brian Daboll that has wanted to get more out of Daniel Jones, and it just hasn't happened. And then each year they've had to change their plans and change the type of offense they pseudo-run.
Yeah, I just think with the yak threats, and again, we're not talking about so his yards per game for his career, his rookie year was 230. It was more like 240 because that he came in week 1 for 3 snaps.
Yep.
2020, 210. So 5 yards away, or less than 5 yards away. 2021, he was over it. And then 2020, he was at 200 yards per game. They were running the ball a lot. And then last year was awful at 151. So I'm basically asking for 15 more yards per game than 2022, and then essentially the same production as the first 2 years. That's what I'm at. I don't feel like I'm asking for too much, but I understand. Like, he's 3 out of 5 years he's been under on this. So
right. I hope you're right.
This next one, Devin Singletary, 55 rushing yards per game. This one's hard, right? And that's part of the reason why these over-unders are hard, because I make them hard. It's not like the betting ones where it's like they're more likely to be lower. So this would be 935 rushing yards if he played the full season. He's been less than 4 yards per game away from this mark. The last years after his rookie year where he had 64 yards per game. I'm going to go under, though, because like I said, the last 3 years, he's been RB1 on those teams, and he's went under. Barely, but he has went under, right? And last year, he averaged 12.7 yards, or 12.7 carries per game. Saquon averaged 17.5 and 18.5 the last 2 years, so you're asking, oh, well, they're going to run the ball 5 less times per game? I'm not so sure, but they also, if they like Tyrone Tracy at all, he probably won't hit this. If he's the clear bell cow running back 1, then I think he will. So he averaged 11, carries per game last year, or sorry, with Daboll in 2021, he averaged 11 carries per game, sharing time with Moss. So I'm basically needing 13 carries per game. The offensive line is not set to be a great run blocking unit. And again, if they like Tyrone Tracy at all, I don't think he's going to hit this. So I'm going to go under here.
Yeah, it's funny how you chose 13 as the magic number. I said if Singletary averages 13 to 14 attempts per game, I think he will get it. I think Singletary is an efficient running back. I do think the Giants' offensive line run blocking unit will be better this year. And I don't think that's even a stretch to say. I think John Michael Schmitz will improve.
But it was awful last year.
Right, and I think that's a referendum not on this year's blocking unit. I think it's a reflection of how bad last year's was. I think John Runyon's going to bring some stability there. John Michael Schmitz hopefully is going to take a little bit of a year 2 jump. Jermaine Alamunar will be an upgrade at whether he's at guard or tackle, no matter what, no matter where he's kind of slinging it. So, and Andrew Thomas will be fully healthy. Knock on wood. So 13 to 14 is the magic number that Devin Singletary needs to get per game to get to that 55 yards per game. And that's the big question, where if they do like Tyron Tracy, and then even Eric Gray is involved in this too, if he's been able to progress, become a little bit more of a complete player. I just don't have that trust right now that they do, and I think Singletary is that proven pro. He's here. And I do think that there are going to be certain points this year where not 16, 17, 18 attempts per game like we saw with Saquon Barkley over the last 2 years, but I think there will be stretches where the Giants will rely on the run a little bit more. Or I think they will have to revert back. They're going to have these lofty goals over the summer, and then they're going to have to revert back to the run as the year progresses. So I will be going over for Devin Singletary.
You're going over?
Yes, I'm going over.
Okay.
I originally wrote down under. I originally wrote down under because he just hasn't done it since 2021. But then I really thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? I think he will get 13 to 14 attempts. So,
here's why I don't. I think in most games he will get that. But here's the thing: is that the backup running back with Saquon got no carries, right? Matt Breida. I'm going through his last 6 games as with the Giants. 3 carries, 2 carries, 2 carries, 3 carries, 1 carry, 2 carries. So whoever the backup back is probably going to get more than that. And also, you're going to have these games now that Saquon's not here. Think about the 49ers game last year when Saquon was out. Matt Breida ran the ball 4 times in that game. He was a starting running back, and he ran the ball 4 times in that game. So I just think that is in Brian Daboll's history of having these random games where they just don't go to the run at all, that I think those games will drop it down. And I just think the backup running back, I think whoever backup RB2 is going to get more carries than they would pass. I think he'll probably average 11 carries per game, which is what he did with Dable in 2021. Obviously, Zach Moss is at the time is a better threat than what we know with the Giants backup running back. So I'm going under.
Yeah. And also now that I'm thinking of this too, I'm still going to stick with over. But now that Dable is the primary play caller, and it's not Kafka anymore, at least the fan theory that's running right now is that Dable's going to call a much more pass-happy offense, right? That's the running
Dable
theory.
also would get in Kafka's ear and tell him to run the damn ball a lot, too. But they also had Saquon Barkley, and probably more pass-happy, or at least aggressive. All right, here's a fun one, Justin. Malik Nabers, 850 yards. What do you got?
Over. This is the easiest over for me.
The easiest, 850 yards, something no Giant has done in like 6 years.
There's no stats or really logic behind this besides I think it's just going to happen. Like Garrett Wilson went over, Chris Olave went over. I mean, even like for crying out loud, Bobby, we just recorded the Seahawks TPP where, I mean, JSN, who was largely viewed as like a disappointment, still came within 220 yards of this. And he was only on the field for like 60% of the time, and largely viewed as a disappointment, and the Seahawks couldn't run out of 11 personnel. So I'm easy over for me.
So I'm going over. One, this is correlated to the Daniel Jones over-under, right? Like, they're going to force it. But also, Slayton has led this team with 770 yards and 724 yards, and he missed time in 2022, right? Like, he wasn't playing right away. So, and we've went under on the last 2 rookie wide receivers of Wandale and Jalen Hyatt, whatever our over-unders were that. We went under, and I think we were right on both of those ones. But I feel like this one's QB O-line proof, this receiver compared to Wandale or Jalen Hyatt, right? Like, Darren Waller would have been 68 yards short of this if he played the full season. So, and if DJ gets hurt, like, Locke is going to get him the ball. If there's anything that Locke will do, it's going to be getting the ball to Malik Nabers. So, and I'm just optimistic for Malik Nabers. I'm going over. Over. I thought about putting this thing at 950 yards and making it difficult, but you know what? I put it at 850. That's that's a good rookie season. I'm going over.
Yeah, easiest for me.
Here's a tougher one. Darius Slayton, 720 yards. Over or under? He's done this every season except for 2021.
This is where it gets tricky because if I'm picking Jones to go under his yards per game and Nabers to go over, it would make sense to pick Slayton for under, even though all logic points to go over, right? Because this is this is what we're in the Darius Slayton season of underestimating what he can do. This is going to be the year where he gets phased out. This guy's going to take over. That guy's going to take over, become more of a priority in the offense. And then lo and behold, Slayton's more reliable, and he's leading the team in receiving. It makes no sense to have Jones under and then still pick over for Slayton, but I'm doing it.
So this one hurts because you mentioned this is Darius Slayton's season of everyone trying to count him out, right? Like last year, people were like, Hodgins is the true wide receiver one of this team. I'm like, what? Come on, stop. Please stop this shit. Stop doing this to Slayton every damn year. I understand he drops the ball. Stop doing this shit. So this would be essentially this would be 42.3 yards per game. No, essentially, I put out the decimal. He's done this in every season except for 2021. But Nabers is going to be so involved in this offense, right? Like this is the first year where we're reasonably like, oh, well, Slayton's not the wide receiver one anymore. I think they're going to want to get Wandale like 5 targets per game minimum. And even though I think Slayton should start over Hyatt, like they're going to be itching to get Hyatt on the field too. And here was the thing that made me go under. Because again, he's done this 4 times in 5 years. So think about like 2022 is the sole wide receiver on the roster until Hodgins showed up. But even last year, if you take away the Rams touchdown, and we know DJ is not throwing that pass, he doesn't get it in 2023 as the team's clear wide receiver one. Now, I expect the passing off.
If you take away that one play?
Yeah, he doesn't get this. So that's why I'm going to go under, is because for the first time, like, there is a clear wide receiver one over him, you know? And the only other time that there was that was Kenny Galladay, and that was the one time that Darius Slayton didn't hit this mark. And again, like they're going to want to get Wandale targets. And if we had a better quarterback, I'd say over, right? If we felt really good about the QB, I would go over. But I'm going under just because there is a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, and I think Slayton's going to be a big part of this offense and wide receiver too. But I just think he gets under this 7. I think he gets like 690, 700. I think Wandale gets like 650. You know, then Hyatt can get, 450. I think there's going to be a lot of guys in that 400 to 700 range. Yeah. I think there's going to be 3 guys who fall in that range, and then Nabers, the number 1 in the 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's bound to get hurt. I just think Slayton's going to be there and he's going to be available. And to expect all 4
but I think
guys.
Unless it's Nabers to go down, I think this will be a lot harder for.
Right. But something that's also on my mind, too, is that the Giants just had 0. They were the worst team in the NFL at getting plays between 10 to 19 yards. Like, there was nothing in the intermediate part of the field. Now, you still have Daniel Jones throwing the ball, but I don't think he's as bad because the offensive line hopefully won't be as bad as they were last year with that, 30, 40% pressure rate that he was hit. So I think that's going to help Slayton out a lot too. Some more of those crossing patterns, crossing plays that were there in 2022 that we're getting between 10 to 19 yards. Stuff near the sideline, that's where I think could help Slayton. So the fact that Slayton, okay, you take away that one Rams play, he gets under.
You can't. But I'm just thinking of next year.
No, but I also will include the fact that there was just 0 play. There was very little presence of plays of 10 to 19 yards. It was either we're catching it before the sticks and we're getting a play between 0 to 10, or we're going 20 plus. It was a boomer bust passing offense last year when it came to the Giants. So and definitely more bust than boom.
Team receiving touchdowns leader. We got the boom.
I'm going yeah, great. I'm going over. Excuse you. Whoa.
What? Who's over?
We've been recording for like 3 hours now. TPPs, JM football. I'm going Malik Nabers.
Me too. Damn it. I thought about like, what if this tight end was a red zone? But you know what? Let me believe in something. Like if there's one thing that I'm going into camp with no like, be a little cautious. It's Malik Nabers. I'm getting excited about everything that happens with Malik Nabers. I'm excited for his rookie year. Every highlight, I will come away from training camp practices and be like, this guy's fucking legit. I have no hesitation in being excited for Malik Nabers, so I'm going Malik Nabers as well.
Who was Brian Dable going to scheme to get open in the red zone?
The tight ends.
No. Come on. Like, who is the main
tight
target?
ends? But the thing is you're not going to rely on those guys to be your receiving touchdown leader.
Okay, who is the guy that is going to get open the most?
It's Malik Nabers. Nabers.
Who's the guy that's going to get open the most, and who's the guy that can separate the most in the red zone? It's Malik Nabers.
Who's the only guy who could take a 5-yard slant and take it to the house? Malik Nabers.
That too.
All right. Before we get to the defense, Justin, why don't you talk to us about something?
I'll talk to you about something, and that is DraftKings, the kings of the draft. The All-Star game is this week. Why don't you go and bet on the damn All-Star game? And if you're there, say hi to our bosses, because it's bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, the bases are full, and you're down by 3. Who's going to win, AL or NL, in the All-Star game, even though it doesn't matter anymore?
The AL, and we'll have home field advantage in the World Series.
Yep, because that happens. The drama of baseball is real, and so is all the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook. I just put $5 for Anthony Richardson to win MVP this year, to win $155. I think it's plus 3,000. Hey-yo! Live betting, odds boosts, and so much more, including those same-game parlays. I love my octopus parlays. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers, if you bet just $5, oh, there you go. Bet Anthony Richardson to win MVP if you're a new customer. $5, get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So if you bet $5 on Daniel Jones to win Comeback Player of the Year, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WORLD. New customers bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code WORLD, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-89-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus specs expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/baseball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did, and we have spoken a ton of words today.
Breaking news.
Don't do this to me.
Skip Bayless is leaving undisputed.
Oh, that is true. I saw that recently. Your thoughts?
I think John Boy Media should make a run.
Yeah. Lead football guy. Skip Bayless.
I would be down for it. All right, let's talk about the defense, and we'll talk about the guy who leads the Giants defense, and that's Dexter Lawrence. I think we've done the same number for Dexter Lawrence every year, and that is 5.5 sacks. He's done this once in his career, which was 2020-22. I went under last year and was correct.
Bullshit.
Gotta flex the few W's we have.
Yeah, well, he got hurt. It's the only reason why he fucking didn't do it.
I think he missed one game.
No, he was playing hurt,
and then was a pass rush specialist. Was he not great when he came back? I don't know.
He was even better before he got hurt though. Like, he was elite level. He still wasn't elite level, but it was bullshit.
Who could have known an NFL player got, a minor injury in an NFL season? Who could have ever forecasted that?
Oh, stop.
I'm going over.
Yeah.
I think the edge presence helps. Jeff Simmons has hit this the last 3 years in a Shane Bowen defense. And this defense is going to be more zone-based and less blitzing, which means less the QBs getting the ball out quickly and low average depth of target. And he did this, and of his 2 dominant seasons, he's done it once. He got close the second time. I'm going over.
I think he gets double digits this year.
That's the last thing that he needs to do to, be better than Chris Jones, really.
I think he goes double digits.
Chris Jones is my defensive tackle 1. And the argument that Quinnen Williams has is that Quinnen Williams finishes at the quarterback. And I understand, sacks are not the most important stat, right? But when you're talking about the greats, I do think sacks are a big part of that. So it's the last thing he needs to do is to get those double-digit sack seasons, or 9 sacks, 9.5 sack seasons. As
of October 30th, and this is shortly before he got hurt, so the end of October, he led all interior defensive linemen with 44 pressures, and he was tied for the league lead with Nick Bosa. He led all interior defensive linemen in pass rush win rate at the time. 4th in the league. I'm not just talking about interior defensive linemen. 4th in the league in pass rush productivity behind Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, and Micah Parsons. And he was tied for 2nd in the NFL in QB hits, and that was all via PFF. And Bobby, there were 2 players that were interior defensive linemen last year that had a pass rush win rate that started with a 2. Who were those 2 players?
Say it again.
There were 2 players in the NFL last year who were interior defensive linemen that had a win rate, according to PFF, that started with a 2.
Outside of Dex?
Dex and who else?
Chris Jones?
Nope.
Quentin Williams?
Nope.
Matabukwe?
Nope.
All right, tell me.
Aaron Donald, Hall of Famer.
He is a Hall of Famer.
2 players in the NFL. I just, if Dex stays healthy and doesn't have an injury that he's playing through and, he's grinding through, he's going to get 70% of the snaps because he's a warrior. He's a dude that's going to stay on the field, and he will have over 10 sacks this year.
Well, will this guy have 10 sacks? Because we're putting the over-under at 9.5 sacks for Kayvon Thibodeau. He had 11.5 last year for his rookie season. He's in a defensive scheme that is better suited for edge players. Justin, over or under?
I'm going under. I think he could have a good year even with 8 sacks. But I just think it's natural when you look at the win rate, the pressure rate, things that we've talked about time and time again with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think a little bit of a regression is likely, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if Dexter Lawrence is getting double-digit sacks, and we'll talk about Brian Burns next. But I still think Kayvon Thibodeau can have a solid year with 8 sacks, but I don't think he's going to get double digits again this year.
So, like I said, 11.5 last year. He was 71st out of 78 edges in pass rush win rate. That's the biggest thing for the under for me. He only had 4 QB hits last year. And I got some trivia for you. Who was the only player with 10 sacks last year and less total sacks, hits, and pressures than Kayvon Thibodeau?
That I won't. Give me a conference.
I'm gonna. He was in the NFC West. He went to the AFC East, and now he's back in the NFC West. Here's the ultimate hint. You can't get this. Jerry Reese liked him.
Oh, Leonard Floyd.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd.
Nice.
So, to me, you kind of have to go under on this. Even though he got over by 2 last year. Kayvon's got to step up this year, right? We need more of him this year than what he was last year.
Yeah, we got a lot of flack for saying that, but it's because you just look at the sacks and tackles for loss, and that stuff is great. I'm confident in Kayvon Thibodeau's ability to force negative plays, and that makes him a valuable NFL player. If you're getting, you're getting 10 sacks and over 10 tackles for loss every single year, that's a good player. But if we're expecting great things out of you, you can't have advanced stuff that's that bad.
Yeah,
that's not stat picking.
No. Same number, different guy. 9.5 sacks for Brian Burns. I'm going over. He's only hit the over once, but he's been at 9 twice in his career. They traded for him, and so they're going to put him in spots to do this wide alignment, free reign, and freestyle. They're going to do stunts and shit, and he's so quick. I'm going over on this.
Yeah, I'm also going over too. I don't know what the long term sustainability of what Brian Burns is. I certainly have some questions, but year 1, it's a different scheme. I think getting him out of Carolina and getting him out of it was a bad situation. He knew it. He was in a bad situation for years. I think this Shane Bowen front is going to do some good things for him and allow him to do some good things. So for year 1, Brian Burns, I'm going over.
Yeah, because they're gonna put him in every opportunity to do that, like you said. So I'm going over on that too. I want to do a check-in of what are our rates of positive. So I'm 1 for 2, 2 for 3, 2 for 4. I am 4 for 7 positive. Usually means we're gonna look back and be wrong.
I'm pretty. I've picked over for Singletary. I've picked over for Slayton and Nabers.
Yeah, you're really positive.
But I'm under for Jones, which makes no sense.
We call him positive panic.
Yeah, but I'm under for Jones. Makes no sense.
Team defense rushing 120 yards per game. So under is good, over is bad. So this essentially means not being a bottom 10 run defense. So this is not a high mark, but they have not been close to this the last 2 seasons. I'm gonna go under again. Bowen has had top 5 run defenses every year, and I know the personnel's different. But the argument to that is, well, Wink had a number 1 run defense the year that he joined the Giants.
Yep.
But I think they're going to get Cordell Flott out of the slot. So nickel's going to be a key part of this. I think the safeties are going to be a much bigger part of the run fits, and I think they're just going to do a better job of funneling everything inside instead of forcing it out and putting it like you look like last year's run defense was actually really improved, right? With the defensive tackles, where 2022 their defensive tackles got bullied when Leonard Williams was off the field. Last year that wasn't the case. Ashawn was good, like their run defense was good, and their linebackers were good. The edge wasn't great, but it wasn't great. But the big runs came from the secondary sucking, which is still the same guys outside of Drew Phillips. But I think this defense is going to bring the runs a little more inside. I also think they're going to be way more vulnerable in the air this year, and teams will want to throw. So I'm going under. Let's not have a bottom 10 run defense 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I'm also going under too, and it was Hard Knocks that was my first thought was hearing Brian Daboll talk about the run defense, and that's kind of why Shane Bowen is here, along with, hey, we're going to bring the intensity, we're going to bring the pressure, and we're going to bring everything up front. That's how we're going to win. But I think Brian Daboll was sick and tired of just allowing 4, 5, 6 yards of pop on the ground every single play. I think he was tired of it. For how, innovative, throw the ball, Brian Daboll is, maybe on offense. I think he was tired of it on the defensive side of the ball. And even though probably Shane Bowen wasn't Brian Daboll's first choice, but I think that's one of the reasons why eventually he was sold on Shane Bowen. It's like, hey, this guy is going to come in, we're going to stop the run, and hopefully everything falls into place from there. So I'm also going under.
Absolutely. All right, team interceptions, 14. Last year, that would have been 16th in the NFL, so dead center. Giants were 4th with 18 in 2023. They were last in 2022 with 8. I'm going under on this, and here's my reason why. Who was a guy you could see getting 5 interceptions on this team?
You know what's really funny, Bobby? That's my exact same reason.
You need one guy to carry the bulk of this, and I don't see any of the corners doing it. And the only guy you can make an argument for is a rookie in Tyler Nubin.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going to go to. I was going to ask you the exact same question of who's the interception guy on the team? I can't say it. Can't see it.
I agree. So
now here's the thing. I could see Deonte Banks if Shane Bowen puts his corners and maybe some of the safeties in a certain spot. And actually, we alluded to this. Nate Tice is going to talk about this. We're going to play it in a little bit. He's going to talk about disguising stuff, pre-snap to post-snap and rolling shit. So I could see like Deonte Banks being like deceptively, think back to that Washington interception that he had, his first interception of his career against Sam Howell. Like deceptively, I could see Deonte Banks baiting quarterbacks into certain things, into certain throws, and then jumping on routes or jumping on balls. But how often is that really going to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm going to change this one to 13.5, by the way, just so we don't have a push on it.
Sure.
This doesn't change your answer, though, right?
No, I'm still going under. 6 interceptions the Titans had last year?
I don't know. It wasn't a lot, though.
I wrote it down. Yeah, the Titans were last in the NFL last year with 6 interceptions. The year before, they had 14. And in 2021, they had 16. It does seem like it's an anomaly being that low, but I'm not, like, Kevin Byard did a lot of the heavy.
When Shane Bowen gets his safeties that he wants outside of just Nubin in here, and Belton could be a guy who they might use 3. We're going to talk about 3 safeties in a second. Who is your interception leader? That's the last category.
I originally had Deonte Banks, but I wrote down Tyler Nubin. I just think he's gonna.
Shit.
I just think he's gonna. I think Nubin's gonna buy into what Bowen's doing, and like I do have Antoine Winfield's and Byard eventually expectations for Tyler Nubin. Like I think he can be that kind of player. But especially year one, now Antoine Winfield only had 1 interception in Todd Bowles' defense in his first year, but I still think I have those expectations for Tyler Nubin to lead the team in interceptions.
It pisses me off that the open-ended ones we have the same answers because I'm going Tyler Nubin as well. It's also interesting that we both pick rookies, so we like these rookies. So, but I'm going Tyler Nubin as well. I mean, he's They drafted him for a reason, to get his hands on the football.
Yep.
So that's it. All right, Justin. So I went positive on. You can count yours while I count mine. I went 1 for 2, 2 for 3, 2 for 4, 3 for 5, 3 for 6, 4 for 7, 5 for 8, 5 for 9. I went positive. That sounds like a 9-8 season to me.
A total of 6 I went positive on. The only one I didn't go positive on was the Kayvon sacks and Daniel Jones yards per game.
Well, you must have been one other one because there was 9 categories outside of this.
Well, I thought there was we did open-ended categories. Do we count those as positive?
There was 11 categories, so minus 2 equals 9. So
let's review. Let's review. Anyway, I think it's good for the people. Daniel Jones, 215 yards per game. I went under.
Over.
Devin Singletary, 55 yards per game rushing. I went over.
I went under.
Malik Nabers, 850 receiving yards. We both went over. Darius Slayton, 720 receiving yards. I went over.
Under.
Team receiving touchdown leader. We both went Malik Nabers.
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Lawrence, 5.5 sacks. I went over confidently. And so did you.
Yes.
Kayvon Thibodeau, 9.5 sacks. We both went under.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot team rushing defense. Brian Burns, 9.5 sacks. Oh, I went over. So did you. Team rushing defense, we both went under. Team interceptions, we both went under.
And then, the interceptions, that was your other negative one.
Yep. And then interception leader, we both said Tyler Nubin. Boom, review.
Okay. So you're more positive than me on the 2020. But also, maybe if I'm more positive on the quarterback, which is the most important position in football, maybe I'm technically a little more positive.
I would say that's fair.
We'll see. All right, we interviewed Nate Tice for football today, and we asked him where he was going for camp practices, and he told us, like, well, if you're going to the Giants practices, let us know. And he told us why he's excited for Shane Bone's defense. So we're gonna play that clip, and then we could talk about it for a little bit after.
I am excited too, though. They were on my kind of second tier list to check out. Was actually the Giants, because I'm excited about the Giants defense.
You are?
I am.
The secondary really worries us.
I know. But I like the coordinator because I think he's on his stuff. I think he's on the cutting edge. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what he does.
I really do. I'm not making a joke here. I think.
So what do you like the most about Bowen then?
Yeah,
maybe we'll just cut this part out and put it on top.
Took my bait. So he's been doing some I'm going to say 3 safety, but not big nickel 3 safety kind of shell that I think is the next step for teams. Him and actually Nick Rollis, the defensive coordinator of the Cardinals, they stunk last year because the personnel stunk. But how he used Budda Baker, this is the next step. And what I think it is you're loosening up. You're kind of creating a rover back that can fit in everywhere. Just talk about how many teams use motion shifting before the snap. This lets you kind of hold the pen last. If they're going to shift motion, then now I can slot my guy in wherever he needs to be based on that shifting and motioning. Teams are kind of like sitting in quarters. That was the first step. And quarters is more keep it all in front of us. Hey, we don't have the right answers, but we can blanket this. Okay, we limit to a 6-yard gain. Oh, we got him for a sack there. Okay, we're just limiting. This allows you kind of to get into the coverage you actually want to get to, as opposed to holding on to dear life and just quarters. And it lets you be creative, especially if you have a guy like Budda Baker, but it lets you be creative and where you slot guys. This is where I think, who's a kid from Kentucky you guys got? They drafted Drew Phillips.
Drew Phillips,
yeah. That's why I think it's interesting, because that slot role can be the deep post. He can be the deep half player. He can be a blitzer. He is a lot of these slot players that are in the league are these kind of Swiss Army knives. But I think this defensive coordinator actually knows how to use them, because how he used Roger McCreary. And so yeah, they are a sneaky dark horse top 10 defense for me. Because I love that defensive front. If they end up being like 28th, don't bring me back on here and just like flog me. But
I'll DM you though.
That's fine. DMs are open.
I'm getting
that's
excited.
Fine. Falcons fans just keep going like putting my head in the. You told me Desmond Ridder would be okay, but it was just I think I love their defensive front. I think that is a great equalizer, but I think their linebacker play is fine. But and I know that the defensive backs, I think Banks is a star or going to be a star.
Okay.
I really do. But I just think this defense coordinator knows how to make guys better than they actually are. The Titans went through a lot of injuries the last few years, and he kind of just knew how to make them work. He's creative. He's doing stuff that I think the smart or the guys are trendier guys are going to be gravitating towards. So yeah, I'm a little bit higher on them, I think, than them, way higher than I'm on them than probably a lot of the national kind of media.
Yeah, I think that's why they love Nubin so much, because he is the guy you can put all over the place.
Yes,
and then with Drew Phillips as like he doesn't blitz, but when he does blitz, it's almost 100% of the time, and that nickel blitz, and whether they rush 5 or drop an end from the opposite side, like it's almost exclusively that, and then like you said, just a lot of rotating the safeties pre and post snap, which is stuff
yeah, and I think it's interesting. Yeah, I think he's one of the better ones, and that's why I think that's kind of been lost kind of the fold, because I think Wink is Wink, and I think that of course losing Wink's gonna get a lot of pub, especially how it ended. You can't fire me, my phone's off. And I think but I just think now that because Vrabel's such a big personality, I think that the defensive coordinator, the defensive side kind of got lost in the shuffle of like kind of what they did the last couple of years. They always played better than what their talent was, even though they had nice talent. You mentioned Autry earlier. Jeffrey Simmons is a star. Tierra Tart's a good player, no longer there, but they had decent pieces and stuff. But I think that they always played better, and that's why I'm kind of like, I think they're going to, play above what they're at right now.
All right, so that was cool. Nate Tice is. Should I rank my favorite football NFL analyst right now?
Yes.
He's up there. I'm trying to think of who else. Draft people don't count, and they want to go in there anyways.
He was a cool dude.
Yeah, Nate Tice is a good guy. Anyways, I was a little disappointed when he quote tweeted. He's brought up the warehouse. I was like, no, football. You need to be into football. So it's very funny because one of our listeners, I don't know if he wants me to share his name because he has an NFL Next Gen login.
He does?
And, yeah, it's like impossible to get this. So he sent me something. He said that the Tennessee Titans came out in 6 DB packages 77% of the time on 3rd and 3 to 6 yards, the most in the NFL, and 51% more than the league average, right? So that means 3 corners, 3 safeties, right? Which is what, is what that Nate Tice was talking about, right? They came out in 5 DBs, 15% of the time, second lowest in the NFL, and 52% below league average. So the 3 safety thing is he's talking about like this, player, and like you mentioned, the Cardinals do it, is where you essentially have 3 safeties on the field, and you will play them like high pre-snap, right? And you're waiting for whatever motion is coming at you, and then if the motion goes from left to right, bam, the right safety will come down. If it goes, one way, they'll bring the left safety down, or they'll just, put some. So just basically a lot of pre and post snap movement with the safeties, right? Also having your corners like, inverted coverages, right? Where, inverted cover 2, where, you think of cover 2, you have the 2 deep safeties. Well, with Bowen, what he'll do is he'll take the corner, have him bail out to a deep half of the field, have the safety come back down and replace the nickel corner, and just throwing a bunch of disguised different types of coverages at you. So that was the main part of it. And also he's just high on, because he likes some of the talent, right? Like he loves the those front 4. He thinks Deontay Banks is going to be a star. So that was nice. Always nice to hear from an outside perspective on your young players making a step forward, because every single fan base talks about, oh, if this guy can take a step forward. It's like, well, that's not something that you can bet on. It's nice to hear a national analyst say that. Now, if Deontay Banks doesn't take a big step forward, we will kill Nate Tice.
We will. The thing that was noteworthy to me was hearing how this way of Shane Bowen playing defense, and I didn't love how he compared it to the Cardinals, since I know you weren't necessarily.
I don't love the Cardinals defense.
You what?
I said I don't love the Cardinals defense.
I know that, because hey, we talk about that on TPPs, exactly why Bobby doesn't love the Cardinals defense. So I didn't love the comparison to the Cardinals defense, but I did find it to be interesting that at one point we were all talking about in NFL circles, well, the too high Vic Fangio type of system is the new wave, and we're just gonna limit everything, and we're gonna limit everything behind us and just keep everything in front of us. And now Nate Tice was kind of talking about how this is almost the new wave of defense, where you're not blitzing a high amount. You're limiting those blitzes, and a lot of those blitzes under Shane Bowen comes from the slot corner, not really the linebackers a ton. But you're disguising stuff as offenses are trying to disguise stuff and make you confused and change whatever they're trying to accomplish on offense and throw a defense off. A defense has every right to do that themselves, where how they move post snap and shit like that. So I thought that was pretty unique and cool to hear from Nate Tice, that Shane Bowen is, and the way that he runs his defense is part of like that new wave that you may have other people start to copy around the NFL, and that always makes me giddy and excited.
It'll be interesting just to see what Bowen looks away from Vrabel, right? Like, you think of Patrick Graham when he came to the Giants. What he looked like with the Giants was very different than what he looked like with Brian Flores in Miami, where the head coach can have, a bigger say on defense, right? Yeah. So it's always interesting to see defensive coordinators when they get away from a defensive head coach. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Giants roll out that defense, and that's why camp is going to be so exciting, because I feel like we're going to learn. I feel like we're going to learn a lot about the defense in camp. Offensively, maybe still, may not have the biggest takeaways because you're not hitting the quarterback and stuff. But I think with a new defensive coordinator, we're going to learn a lot about the group. So, all right, that's an episode. We'll be back Friday with a mailbag, and then after that, it is 5 episodes per week with player profiles. We'll have our Camp Battles pod and van interview series. So really excited for it all. Appreciate you guys for listening. We will see you on the next one. Until then, let's go Big Blue.